MLB is back, which means it's time for some preseason breakout picks. And in this video, we'll be kicking that off with 5 pitchers I like for the 2022 season. Foolish 50 before opening day, by the way. Patrick Sandoval is getting a lot of love going into this season, and he's earned it, having put up a 3.62 ERA and 4.03 FIP in 87 innings for the Angels last year. The 25-year-old Sandoval is a pitcher I like on the basis of his repertoire. His changeup was actually his most thrown pitch last season, and it had the highest swinging strike rate of any changeup thrown by a starter. His slider is also well above average in that regard. His fastballs, both four-seam and sinker, are good enough, and his curveball has some serious spin. If you look at called strikes plus whiffs percentage, Sandoval is in elite company with Burns, Bieber, and Glasnow. This is just a breakout waiting to happen. Heck, maybe it already has happened. The Angels are headlined by guys like Trout and Ohtani, but if they sneak into the expanded playoff, I imagine Patrick Sandoval will be a big reason why. We now transition from a current Angel to a former one in Alex Cobb. Cobb has been in the big leagues for a decade now, but he showed off last year with a career high in strikeout rate and fastball velocity, all while maintaining his ground ball-y goodness. Among those who started at least 15 games last season, only 8 pitchers had a higher ground ball rate, and now, having just signed a 2-year deal with the Giants, he's going to benefit from a solid defense behind him, a pitcher-friendly park, and one of the smartest organizations in baseball. The same organization that got some really stellar performances out of veteran pitchers like DeSclafani, Gausman, and Wood. With a career 3.87 ERA, Cobb has generally been effective when healthy. And this fit with the Giants could result in a big season from the 34-year-old righty. The Rockies still stink, but that doesn't mean Austin Gomber, who was acquired in the Nolan Arenado trade, stinks. At first it seemed like a terrible fit. A fly ball pitcher in Coors? Seriously? But he does have some desirable qualities for Denver. For example, he has one of the lowest fastball spin rates in the league, which means his fastball movement isn't as penalized in Coors as other ballparks. Meanwhile, his fastball spin efficiency is one of the highest in MLB. Gomber's slider, changeup, and curveball all had whiff rates over 30% per swing, so he has the secondaries to compete even if the fastball gets hit hard. They can also keep the ball on the ground even if the batter makes contact. Look, it's Coors Field. We're going to be grading on park-adjusted stats like ERA+, but Gomber already had a 105 ERA+ last year in 23 starts. I'd love to see him improve on that stellar Rockies debut this year. How could I not pick a guy named Bailey? Come on now, I believe in Bailey solidarity. Bailey Ober first popped up on my radar in 2019 when he had an unbelievable .69 ERA in the minors that year. His fastball doesn't have the best velocity, but averaging 92 miles per hour last year with the Twins was actually a big improvement over his numbers in the minor leagues. And he also adds some effective velocity due to his height and extension off the mound. At 6'9", he's almost as tall as I am. I like Ober because he understands that walks are for suckers. He was one of 11 starters with a strikeout-to-walk ratio over 5 last season. The average ERA of that group was 3.23. Even if the Twins sign Johnny Cueto or trade for one of Oakland's pitchers, I still think Ober's spot in the rotation is mostly secure. At least a little more secure than Joe Ryan's. Hopefully Bailey will break out in 2022. My reliever pick is Brooks Raley. Last year, I invented a stat called good piece of pitching, and according to his propensity to get strikeouts and coax weak contact, Raley was actually 3rd in MLB, trailing only DeGrom and Hader. Yet, his ERA last year with the Astros was an unimpressive 4.78. There's clearly a lot of regression to the mean that should happen here. His FIP was over a run and a half lower than his ERA in 2021, and it's hard to imagine he'll allow over 40% of his base runners to score again. But what I really like about Brooks Raley is that the Rays signed him this past offseason, and they committed to giving him a 2-year deal, with an option for 2024 as well. This is just a good organizational fit, and I think Raley's results will finally start to mirror his excellent peripherals from the past couple seasons. Well, there you have it. Will my predictions come true? We'll just have to see. When I did this last year, I really nailed it with Tyler Mahle, just not so much with Brady Singer.